City Council met this past Monday. With more on the meeting, here's Gabriel Riviere-Reed.
I'm here at City Hall for your council update. With me tonight is Councillor Justin Towndale. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Thanks, Gabe. It's great to be back here with you again.
All right. So City Council had a very special recognition at the last meeting, and that was Major Anthony Johnson. I'll let you take it away.
Absolutely. So Major Johnson is a recipient of the Defense Meritorious Service Medal from the United States government. That has to do with his service down in the States while he was attached post as part of our NATO obligation and working with NORAD. It's a very prestigious award. He's one of very few Canadians who have received it. In fact, until recently, until President Obama changed the act that created the award, it was prohibited for anyone else than an American to receive this. I think it just shows you the caliber of Major Johnson, and he's a great example to live up to as a Canadian soldier. U.S. Admiral who was responsible for his command said that he embodies the best as a soldier has to offer, not only as a soldier but as a Canadian soldier, and reflective of the entire Canadian Armed Forces.
And obviously, past week, we've recognized the Battle of Vimy Ridge, the anniversary of that, and it just shows how important it is to continue to commemorate our soldiers that are still in active duty.
Absolutely. Vimy Ridge, it's hard to believe it was 100 years ago this past Sunday, April 9th, and that was a forming battle in the history of this country, and the Canadians achieved what was considered the unachievable. They took Vimy Ridge, and other countries had tried, and the Canadians tried, they did it, but it was at a very, very high cost of life. And the memories and the stories that came out of it, and almost 4,000 soldiers did not come home from that battle alone. Very dark time in the history of the world, but also a time where the bravery of Canada shined and showed the world who we are and what we're capable of.
Absolutely. Moving on through the agenda now, for the last fiscal quarter, unfortunately, there is a deficit and reserves have been tapped into.
Yes, there are, it's been a tough fiscal year around, there's a number of reasons for that. We did tap into our reserves. However, to be honest with you, that is why the reserves are there. The reserves are tapped into tax stabilization, partially WSIB, and also for water and sewer budget, the water and sewer reserves respectively. However, administration does tell us that in doing so, we're not endangering these reserves in any way, and we're not causing any fiscal trouble down the road. This is almost, I wouldn't want to call this a standard practice, but we have looked at doing this in the past when there are shortfalls. That's why the reserves are there to, the tax stabilization reserve, the name is quite apt. It's to stabilize our financial situation.
Absolutely. And it should be noted as well that there's still a little bit of uncertainty in terms of some of the assessments that did help contribute to this, but we should be getting some more clarity in the next couple of weeks.
Ideally, there are ongoing appeals through MPAC with the distribution centers. That is something that is ongoing. We have settled with Matrix, which runs the Shoppers Drug Mart distribution center, but the Walmart appeal is still outstanding, so that is to come. However, at this time, we are moving forward with the information we have with the budget we have.
And moving on again, ranked balloting, it was a valiant effort, but Cornwall will not be adopting.
No, we did our due diligence. The province gave us the ability to look at this option. We did public consultations, we held open houses, but at the end of the day, the interest was not there from the people, quite frankly. I don't think a single person told me they're interested in it. Before the meeting tonight, we had a public meeting, and the few folks that came all spoke against it. So what we heard is, now's not the time. Now, there is a cost to it. We estimate it would cost the city about $363,000 to switch over, and that does include the cost of renting, not purchasing new tabulators. So, it would be a big ticket item, but not looking at it like that. It was just, there doesn't seem interest from the people to change the way we elect our representatives. First past the post has been the electoral system that we use, that the country's used since its inception, and I think we're used to that now. Down the road, that could change. It's always good to have options, but at this time, we're going to stick with what we know.
And it should be noted that Cornwall was one of the only municipalities looking at this, but there are some, I believe, that did put it on as a referendum.
That is true. To be honest with you, I heard London may have, but I'm not too familiar with that. I know that this whole process came about because the City of Toronto had asked for permission to do so, and then they withdrew from it altogether. They just decided not to look at it. But, we are maybe one of half a dozen municipalities that decided to take a look at it. It was an accelerated timeline because everything would have to be in place by May 1st of this year, which is very tight. But, this is the kind of thing that the option's there, and down the road we could look at it again. But I think we did the right thing in looking at it, show that we're open to it. And at the end of the day, it is the people's government. The people should decide how we vote, and they just said, the ones who did contribute said no.
Absolutely. And that's a very important point. You were an opponent, at the very least, of having this discussion.
Absolutely, yes. You have to get opinion on this. You're going to make such a drastic change potentially. You need public input.
And just lastly on this topic, one of the things that was brought up was just the fact that the pros and cons really weren't apparent for anybody, whether it be councillors or the public.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. I mean, you know, by now this is the third or fourth time I've had the presentation. I'd like to think I've wrapped my head around it. It is a complicated system. It's not easy. I mean, you do need to sit down and review it, and I did so at Roma, and then again at the council table, then when we were preparing for our open houses, and then again tonight. Yeah, the presentations that are done by the ministry, though, have to be neutral. I mean, they can't take a position one way or the other because it's up for the people to decide what the pros and the cons are at the end of the day, and there are pros and cons. I won't get into them now because we'd be here forever, quite frankly, but you know, that is something that if people want more information, they should look into. There's already information available on the internet from the Ontario government or just on Google.
Councillor Towndale, once again, thank you for joining me for this City Council update.
Thank you, Gabe. My pleasure.